Hello people in my phone. This is the recap of the 2009 movie, Antichrist. The characters don't have names, so we're just gonna refer to him as he or the husband, and her as she or the wife. They're parents of a little baby boy called Nick, until they're not anymore. At their son's funeral, the wife passes out instantly. She gets hospitalized for a month. In and out of consciousness and with little concept of time, she awakens crippled by atypical grief. The husband is a therapist/psychotherapist himself, though. He becomes skeptical about her being heavily drugged and later insists on treating his wife's grief and trauma himself rather than letting her see another doctor. The husband tries to treat her with psychotherapy, but she resists, accuses him of emotional detachment, and violently has sex with him. One night, he asks her to identify her greatest fears. She tells him her greatest fears are nature and their cabin in the woods, which is called Eden, where she and Nick spent last summer while she had been working on her thesis about the history of witch hunts or genocide. After a while of her not getting any better, she flushes her psychiatric drugs in the toilet, and he decides it's best if he treats her with exposure therapy and take her on a trip to Eden to face her fears directly. On their way to Eden, while she naps, he observes the landscape around them. The atmosphere turns ominous, and the weather feels unnatural as he begins to experience some uncanny imagery. A deer with a dead fawn hanging halfway out of its womb, just dangling out. He also comes across a self-disemboweling red fox.
Chaos reigns.
The wife wakes up from her nap and they continue their hike towards the cabin. The two come across a bridge. She pauses for a second as if she's gonna faint, but suddenly she just runs away, leaving him behind. He reaches the cabin. He enters to find her already sleeping again. In the morning, he takes her outside into the forest and sets up an exercise as a form of exposure therapy. He places two large stones side by side to create a sort of narrow path and tells her to walk slowly between them as part of confronting what she fears. He even supports her by carrying her. But I don't think that exercise helped her at all. I think it does the opposite for her, and she just starts to panic, and then her panic deepens when a chick falls over from a tree and gets eaten by, I think, an eagle. During the sessions of psychotherapy, she starts acting unhinged, super needy one second and aggressive the next, often demanding forceful sex. Later, the husband checks out Nick's autopsy and learns that both of the boy's feet were oddly deformed, something the doctors dismissed at the time since it wasn't related to his death. Then, while looking through the photos his wife had taken back at Eden, he makes a bizarre discovery. In every single picture, Nick's boots are on the wrong feet. That's when it hits him. She'd been doing this deliberately, and the deformity was no accident. The realization leaves him shaken, especially since she was the only one with the boy when those pictures were taken. The goes to the attic and discovers his wife's abandoned thesis work. She had originally set out to research genocide, which is the historical persecution of women accused of witchcraft. Her academic aim seemed like it was meant to expose the injustices women suffered under patriarchal systems. But as he flips through her pages, her writing becomes increasingly frantic and illegible. And instead of seeing these events as evidence of injustice, she begins to accept the logic of the persecutors themselves, which is that women really are evil by nature. Later, she asks him to hit her during sex. sex. At first, he refuses, but when she bolts into the woods and starts pleasuring herself beneath a massive, gnarled tree, he follows after her. They begin having sex again. As they move against the tree, Root's countless ghostly hands reaching out from the tangled roots of the tree. The next day, the two discuss Nick's autopsy and the photos. The husband confronts her about putting Nick's shoes on the wrong feet, but she flat out denies knowing anything about it. The husband then heads for the attic to write himself as her biggest fear. That's when she attacks him and accuses him of planning to leave her. She initiates sex with him, then suddenly smashes a large block of wood onto his erect penis, knocking him unconscious. While he lies there, she masturbates him until he ejaculates blood. Then, in a horrifying escalation, she drills a hole through his leg, bolts a heavy grindstone into the wound, and tosses the wrench she used under the cabin. When he wakes up and tries to loosen the bolt, but he can't, so he tries to get away by dragging his crippled body into a deep foxhole underneath a dead tree to hide from her. Inside the hole, he finds a buried alive crow and helps it out. The wife looks for him everywhere in panic. The crow starts cawing loudly. He beats it over and over, but no matter how much he beats it, it doesn't stop, which leads her to follow its sound until she locates, attacks, and partially buries him. At night, she digs him up, drags him back to the cabin, and apologizes. She tries to find the wrench, but she can't remember where did she hide it. He then asks if she wanted to kill him.
Not yet. When the three beggars arrive, someone must die.
She lays on the floor next to him and have a flashback of the night Nick died. She watches him climb up to the window ledge, and instead of doing something about it, she chooses not to. She wasn't just grieving, she was complicit. After that, she grabs a pair of scissors and she cuts her own clitoris while masturbating. That night, the husband hears the crow he had seen in the foxhole making the same sound beneath the floorboards of the cabin. He breaks the boards, frees the crow, and finds the wrench his wife had been hiding. Later, the couple is visited by the deer, the fox, and the crow, the same three animals he had encountered earlier. Together, they are referred to as the three beggars. While he tries to free himself, she stabs him with the scissors. After he was finally able to remove the grindstone, he chokes her to death and then burns her body on a funeral pyre outside the cabin. As a hailstorm begins, it recalls an earlier revelation. In Ratisbon, women accused of witchcraft were believed to have the power to summon such storms. Struggling on his injured leg, the husband leaves the cabin and eats wild berries as the three beggars watch. When he reaches the top of the hill, he witnesses hundreds of women in old-fashioned clothing, their faces blurred and unrecognizable, moving past him, vanishing one by one into the depths of the forest. If you liked this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your loved ones. Also, let's discuss the meaning of this movie in the comments.